Welcome to this New York Genealogical and Biographical Society online program presentation. Thank you to the American Scottish Foundation and the National Records of Scotland for partnering with the NYGMB to celebrate Tartan Week. This presentation, the contents, handout, slides, and all other materials are under copyright and may not be reproduced or shared in any form without prior written permission of the speaker and the NYGMB. This presentation is titled An Introduction to Scotland's People. It is presented by Tessa Spencer, and the Q&A is with Gerald Donnelly. Tessa Spencer is the head of Outreach and Learning at the National Records of Scotland. She is also an archivist at the National Records of Scotland. Gerry Donnelly leads the Business Development Unit at the National Records of Scotland. He has degrees in physics, maths, and statistics. He lives in Fife, and when he goes to work, he crosses the Forth Bridge. And now, on to the presentation.
Hello, I'm Tessa Spencer, an archivist at the National Records of Scotland, or NRS. This talk will give you a brief introduction to NRS's online service Scotland's People. It has been produced for the New York Genealogical and Biographical Society and the American Scottish Foundation to mark Tartan Week. We will learn about the wealth of documents searchable via Scotland's People, including the Kirk session and other church court records from the Church of Scotland, which are now available to view online for the first time. We will explore this diverse material, explaining what the records are and how you can access and use them for genealogical research. But first, a brief introduction to NRS, who we are, where we are, and what we do and hold. NRS is a non-ministerial department of the Scottish Government and was established on the 1st of April 2011, following the merger of the National Archives of Scotland and the General Register Office of Scotland. We have a duty to collect, preserve and produce information about Scotland's people and history and make it available to inform current and future generations. NRS holds around 80 kilometres or 49.7 miles of records, which are stored in secure and temperature-controlled rooms in 4 buildings in Edinburgh. The records span from the 12th to the 21st centuries, touching on virtually every aspect of Scottish life. We are responsible for the public and legal records of Scotland, but we also have many local and private archives. They relate to a variety of subjects including the church, law, government and everyday life. We hold and make available one of the most varied archive collections of records in Britain. Scotland's People is the official Scottish Government resource where you can access digital images of statutory registers of births, deaths and marriages, 1855 to the current day, or parish registers or OPRs, 1553 to 1854, census returns, 1841 to 1911, valuation rolls, legal records and more. It is used by hundreds of thousands of people each year to apply for copies of official certificates and to research family history, biography, local and social history. Before you begin, you'll need to log in or register with us for free in order to see search results. You do not need to pay anything until you want to view, download or order copies of the records. Click on the green Register button at the top right-hand corner of the home page and complete and submit your details in order to register for an account. You can explore the site by starting to search our records, use the search tips on the search forms, and find guidance when you need it. Use our help and guidance pages to find out what records are in the site and how they can be used for different kinds of research. You can also get advice on technical issues like image viewing, filtering and sorting searches and managing your account. Check our charges page for ordering certificates and buying credits for pay-per-view research and how to redeem vouchers. On a Scotland's People homepage, you can select the blue Advanced People search option beneath the hero image. Alternatively, you can navigate to this option by clicking on the Search Our Records page. 6 categories of records are indexed by personal name: the statutory or civil registers, church registers, census returns, valuation rolls, legal records, and poor relief and migration records. They can be searched for free in different ways, and you can pay for copies using credits or vouchers. We will now provide examples of some of these indexed records, explaining what they are and how they can be used for research purposes. The Kirk session and other church court records will be covered later on in this talk. The statutory registers are official records of births, deaths and marriages. They have been kept in Scotland from 1855 onwards, when compulsory civil registration was introduced to replace a system overseen by the Church of Scotland, the established church. In more recent years, registers of divorces, dissolutions and civil partnerships have also been kept. The registers can be searched by personal name, but some modern records are closed to protect the privacy of individuals. Using the statutory registers of births, we can search for the birth record of John Loggie Baird, the television engineer. Enter his forename and surname into the search boxes, select his gender and the year he was born, 1888, which we found from other sources, and then click Search. We are presented with a list of search results for John Baird, born in 1888, and can purchase and view the image of interest, John Loggie Baird. In the image viewer, you can also save the image to your account or download it to your own device. John Loggie Baird was born on the 13th of August 1888, the son of John Baird, a Church of Scotland minister, and Jessie Ingalls. The entry in the statutory register of births for Roe or Rue gives the place of birth at the Lodge, West Argyle Street, Helensburgh. His middle name is spelt Loggie with 2 G's. The record also details that his parents were married on the 18th of September 1878, which is useful information for conducting further research. Statutory registers of marriages also include some famous names, such as Agatha Christie, the Queen of Crime, a prolific writer of murder mystery stories featuring the Belgian detective Hercule Poirot or the English Miss Marple. Agatha Mary Clarissa Miller or Christie married Max Edgar Lucien Malawan on the 11th of September 1930. The entry in the Statutory Register of Marriages for the district of St Giles in Edinburgh gives the place of marriage as St Cuthbert's Church. The entry also shows that she had obtained a decree of divorce from her first husband, Colonel Archibald Christie. Her usual residence was 22 Cresswell Place in London, but she was living at the Broadford Hotel in Strath at the time of this marriage. David Clark Russell was a rivet catcher on the Forth Bridge construction. David would have been stationed near the joints to be riveted, where a furnace would have been set up. A rivet warmer would have heated up the rivets until they were more malleable, and then removed them with tongs and thrown them to the catcher, who would catch them in an ash-lined leather or wooden bucket. Sadly, David died aged 13 during the course of his employment on the bridge, and appears to be the youngest casualty of the 73 men known to have died. David died on the 13th of September 1888 on part of the Forth Bridge on the island of Inchgarvie, Dunfermline. His cause of death is given: fracture of base of skull and of spinal column, fracture of both legs, death instantaneous. The Register of Corrected Entries, or RCE, records additional authorised information about the death following registration. This usually means further details about cause of death in cases of sudden, accidental and violent deaths. An RCE reference is inserted beside the original entry in the statutory register of deaths. Linked to David's death entry is an RCE, which gives more details regarding his death. He fell from a staging on the Forth Bridge construction, a distance of about 180 feet, and was killed instantly. On a lighter note, you can find some unusual names registered in the records, including this birth entry for Equator Thunderbolt, who was born on the 12th of April 1897 at 158 Woodlands Road, Glasgow. Her parents were Edward and Lily Thunderbolt, who were married in Melbourne, Australia on the 21st of February 1896. Edward was an engineer, which seems an appropriate occupation for his surname. An official census of the Scottish population has been taken every 10 years since 1801, with the exception of 1941 during the Second World War. However, little information about individuals has survived for 1801 to 1831. From 1841 to 1911, enumerators prepared transcript books after the collection of household schedules from the head of every dwelling, institution and vessel. Census returns a list of people living at each address, giving ages, places of birth, and other information about them. In 1901, Charles R. Mackintosh, 32, architect and employer, was at 120 Main Street with his wife Margaret, artist, who worked from home. The census return for the district of Blythswood in Glasgow shows that the household included a visitor, Harry C. Marillier, metalworker, who was born in the Cape of Good Hope, and a servant, Maggie MacDonald, who spoke Gaelic and English, G and E. The property had 7 rooms with 1 or more windows. On Scotland's People, you can search the registers of the Church of Scotland, some other Presbyterian churches, as well as the Roman Catholic Church in Scotland. The Old Parish Registers, or OPRs, comprise the records of births and baptisms, banns and marriages and deaths and burials kept by the individual parishes of the established church, the Church of Scotland, before the introduction of civil registration in 1855. The parish minister or session clerk normally assumed responsibility for maintaining these registers, but since there was no standard format employed, record keeping varied enormously from parish to parish and also from year to year. As a result, the information may be sparse, unreliable, and difficult to read. In the Dunning OPR in 1764, it is noted, "Any person that wants a child's name in any of the 3 preceding pages may scarcely expect to find it in the proper place, they being wrote by Mr. King, late schoolmaster depute here, without any regularity or order." And in a different handwriting and ink, "The above ill-natured, ungentlemanlike observation was written by Mr. James White, and stands as one mark of his own distinguished idiotism." The oldest register dates from 1553, baptisms and banns from Errol, Perthshire, and the earliest record is for Christine or Christine Hay, who was baptised on the 27th of December 1553. Although there was a requirement from 1552 that parishes record baptisms and marriages, many did not commence until much later, and some more remote areas only have registers from the early 19th century. Some registers have been lost or destroyed, and the condition of the surviving 3,500 is variable. In this example, the minister cannot recall all the details for a child who was baptized in Ochiltree. "Something George, something lawful son, to what you call him, in mains of bar skimming, was baptized April the 9th, 1704. Thankfully, other entries are more illuminating, such as the baptismal record for James Clerk Maxwell, one of the 19th century's greatest scientists. You can also find unusual records in the registers, as in this example relating to a couple in Midmar, Aberdeenshire in 1720, where the path of true love did not run smoothly. It states that Patrick Chain and Sophia Garriock were contracted in order to marriage, but by the mutual consent of both parties, and then in a different hand it notes, the match was broke off. Ha 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 ha, he 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 he. The spellings of forenames and surnames in the records on Scotland's people may not be as you expect, particularly in the older records due to transcription errors, misspellings, phonetic spellings, deliberate or accidental variations by informants, as well as variations of the names. In the case of this woman, she was baptized Jean in 1835, married as Jane in 1866, and died Jeanie in 1900. If you are unsure of the spelling of a name or you suspect it may have been recorded differently, you can use the search options to the right-hand side of the surname and forename search boxes to improve your search. The options are exact names only, fuzzy matching, wildcards, names that begin with, name variants, and phonetic matching. In this example, we have searched the surname Ferguson using the exact surname search option in the OPR marriage registers from 1700 to 1720. 422 results have been returned. Whereas in this example, we have searched the surname Ferguson using the names variant search option in the same record set and time period and returned 872 results. Further guidance about using the search options to improve your search results can be found in the Forenames and Surnames guides on Scotland's people. Valuation rolls are records of property ownership compiled for the collecting taxman. From 1855, they record properties, apart from those with a very low rental value, listing annually the names of the proprietor, tenant, and principal occupier, and the annual rateable value of the property listed. These records can sometimes be a useful aid to finding a family if they are not readily found in the census, because the indexed entries cover inter-census years and beyond. You can also use them to search the history of buildings, such as shops and businesses of all kinds, churches, schools, hospitals, railway stations, and even lighthouses. This example is from the Glasgow Borough Valuation Roll for 1925 to 1926. It lists properties in Garscube Road and Stewart Street in the East End of Glasgow and provides information on the owners, tenants and their occupations. One such tenant is Prince Valar, a tattooer working from a flat at 63 Stewart Street. His flat was modest, with a rateable value of £11 and 15 shillings. Legal records available on this site include wills and testaments, soldiers' and airmen's wills, the records of First World War military service appeals tribunals, and coats of arms. Wills and testaments can be found in the records of the commissary and sheriff courts and are very useful for family historians. Wills can often provide a wealth of detail about family relationships and a vivid snapshot into the past about how people lived. You may find names of family members, their relationships, and details of everyday possessions, as well as details of the debts that they owed at the time of their death. You can search over 611,000 wills and testaments on Scotland's people, covering the period 1513 to 1925. Andrew Carnegie, manufacturer and philanthropist, gave away over $350 million, approximately $4.3 billion in today's money, during his lifetime. After his death, a further $30 million was donated to institutions, charities, and pensioners. The inventory of his estate in Scotland was presented at Edinburgh on the 21st of October 1920. It was modest compared to that recorded in New York, with a value of £67,541, 8 shillings and 2 pence, which would be in the region of £1.96 million today. The introductory clause records that Andrew Carnegie, late of the County of New York, USA, died at Lenox in the state of Massachusetts on the 11th of August, 1919. On Scotland's People, you can also search for records that are not indexed by personal name, most notably the Church Court records using the virtual volume search. You can navigate to this page by clicking on the new Search for Kirk Session and Other Church Court Records featured block on the home page, or via the Search Our Records page. In virtual volumes, there are more than 1 million pages from around 6,000 volumes from the courts of the Church of Scotland. If you are registered with the website, you can search the records and then browse through the images on the site at no charge. If you wish to save or download a copy, each image costs 2 credits, 50 pence. A new system was introduced to run church affairs, education and poor relief following the Scottish Reformation in 1560, the General Assembly, synods, presbyteries and Kirk Session. A Kirk Session is the lowest court in the Church of Scotland, comprising the minister and elders of an individual parish or congregation. In the course of Kirk Session business, these courts, and in particular the elder appointed to the office of Session Clerk, produce records documenting their meetings, decisions and transactions. The differences in extent and jurisdiction between these courts are explained in the Church Courts Records Guide on Scotland's People. Church Court records comprise a major source of information for researching many aspects of Scottish history from the mid-16th century onwards. The records created by church courts are very useful for family and local history research. They contain details of key events in communities across Scotland, mostly in the form of evidence in church court cases, offering a vivid snapshot into the everyday lives of ordinary Scots. In this period, cases could involve paternity of children and irregular marriages, and the Church also carried out many functions later taken over by local government. These included school education and poor relief, registering births, deaths and marriages, and disciplining parishioners for what would now be termed antisocial behaviour, such as drunkenness, cursing or breaking the Sabbath. The records also show that in an age of private healthcare, the ministers and sessions sometimes paid medical bills for the poor. There are also accounts of exceptional events, such as witchcraft trials, outbreaks of epidemics, crop failures, extreme weather events, and the civil wars. For family historians, these records are often the first step away from sources, such as registers of births and census returns, which are not indexed intensively by personal names. The records can give details of births, marriages, burials, and the movement of people from one part of Scotland to another. Evidence given in Kirk Session and Presbytery cases can give fascinating details of how our ancestors lived, worked, and worshipped. If you're lucky, the Kirk Session records could be a valuable aid to help add foliage to your family tree. If you've reached a dead end in your research, the Kirk Session records may contain helpful details to find out more about your ancestors. You might find evidence of them, for example, if your ancestor required financial support from the church, if they were admonished for what the church then saw as antisocial behaviour, or information relating to baptisms, marriages and burials not included in the old parish registers, as well as communion rolls and other lists of names. Unlike statutory registers and OPRs, Kirk session records are indexed. To trace mentions of your ancestors, you first need to know which parish they belong to and then find out whether its records have survived. Virtual Volumes gives you 3 different options to search the records: by volume, record creator, the Kirk session, presbytery or other court or institution, or by place. We will focus on the place search. If you know where your ancestor lived, you can use place search to look for records relating to a civil parish, county, city, borough, island, or legal jurisdiction. Examples of valid searches are Aberdeen, Kilmarnock, and Lanark County. For this example, we have chosen Glasgow. If you want to know which Kirk sessions produce records for a parish, but do not know the name of the specific Kirk session, it is better to search for the name of the parish using the place search. You can filter your results by different types of places on the results page. You can also browse a list of places that are included in the Place Search Gazetteer at scotlandspeople.gov.uk/browsers-places. On the results page, select the place of interest, for example, Glasgow City. On the results page for Glasgow City, then select the records of interest, for example, Glasgow Cathcart Kirk session. On the results page for Glasgow Cathcart Kirk session, then select the records you would like to view, for example, the minutes for 1701 to 1751. The Virtual Volumes image viewer is different from the image viewer for indexed records on Scotland's people, in that you can view images free of charge within the image viewer, and then, if you decide you want a copy for personal research, you can purchase and download this, as long as you have first purchased credits in the normal way. The contents list on the right-hand side of the image viewer is a rough list of contents in the volume, similar to chapter marks. This allows you to jump into a volume at a relevant point. Within the image viewer, there are a number of functions to help you navigate your way through the volume and to manipulate the image within the viewer. When you decide to save a copy of an image for personal research, you can use the Purchase button to buy a copy of the image, which will be saved to the Save Volumes area of your account, and also download a high-quality JPEG of the image to your own device. Of most interest for genealogists and local historians are the minutes of the Kirk sessions, which typically contain a detailed and often colourful record of the discipline the ministers and Kirk elders handed out to errant parishioners for offences such as drunkenness, swearing, breaking the Sabbath, quarrelling, and sexual misdemeanours. This is an example of a discipline case brought before Lanark Kirk session in December 1724. James Weir and Helen Hastie, both single persons, were found together under cloud of night in an outer coal house in the minister's close, and it was suspected that they had been guilty of unsuitable behaviour with each other. William Robb was also suspected to be concerned in that wickedness. All three were summoned before the Kirk session to account for their unsuitable behaviour. James and Helen claimed that they were wrestling for an apple in the coal house, and William said that he was waiting outside for James to come out. They were solemnly rebuked by the session for their uncircumspect behaviour and were dismissed with a grave admonition, leaving room for further process, if anything shall be discovered by the providence of God, and their absolution from this scandal was delayed till they see whether anything be discovered in providence or not. Additional records of interest include communion rolls and other lists of names. Communion rolls vary in the amount of detail they supply, but the most detailed give the communicant's place of residence, occupation, date of admission to the congregation, and where he or she had come from. The general remarks column can provide further useful information. In addition to communion rolls and registers of baptisms, marriages, and burials, Kirk sessions habitually produced other lists of parishioners, such as male heads of household, rolls of adherents, or parish population surveys. This example from Kirk session minutes is a roll of male heads of families in 1835 who are members of the congregation and in full communion with the church. It is useful to researchers as an early list of names before the 1841 census. The Kirk sessions may also provide information about the inhabitants of the parish. For example, the Kirk session minutes for Dallas, Morayshire, includes a list of the population of the parish from June 1811. It is very unusual for early census records to include children, making the 1811 census of Dallas one of the best of the known surviving records. Each entry includes address, name, rank. This can be occupation, marital status, lodger, and age. The Kirk session was the primary body that provided poor relief to members of the parish. It also sought to determine who the fathers of children born outside marriage were, in order to confirm whether the parish was financially responsible for supporting the mother and child if the father could not be identified. Anne Boyd, a domestic servant, had a daughter Jemima, who was born on the 20th of August 1856, but was not registered until the following year. Her father's name is not given in the birth entry. Anne appeared before Kirk session, as that was where her daughter was born. It states that Anne Boyd named Peter Kemp as the father of her child. She also appeared before the Kirk session in Madarty, where she resided when the guilt was contracted. Peter refused the charge against him. It was recorded in the Crieff minutes on the 8th of June 1857 that, following a declaration that her statement was true, Anne was solemnly admonished of her sin and expected to lead a virtuous life, and was restored to the privileges of the church. Jemima died in 1931, and her father's name is not included in her death entry, suggesting that Peter did not take responsibility for his child or that they never formed a relationship during her lifetime. It is always worthwhile searching the corresponding records for the parish where you know a family lived. You might be surprised what you find. If you are new to research using original records prior to the late 18th century, you can find help in our guide on reading older handwriting, the Scottish Handwriting website, and a glossary of abbreviations, words, and phrases. The Dictionary of the Scots Language is a culmination of two major dictionaries of the Scots language in a searchable format for tracking down the meaning and historical origin of Scots words, such as glaikit. The Scottish Register of Tartans was launched on the 5th of February 2009 and is a single independent Scottish Register of Tartans which promotes and preserves information about historic and contemporary tartans from Scotland and throughout the world. Prior to the establishment of the register, tartans were recorded by the Scottish Tartan Society, the Scottish Tartans World Register, and the Scottish Tartans Authority. The register is administered by NRS with advice from the Court of the Lord Lion and representatives of the Scottish tartan industry. The Keeper of the Records of Scotland and Registrar General for Scotland is also the Keeper of the Scottish Register of Tartans. This image is of the Scottish Register of Tartans tartan. The colours were inspired by the volumes of the Register of Sazeens, property registers held by NRS. Brown for the leather bindings, red and gold for the labels, and black for the shelving. This official guide to the records made available via Scotland's People and NRS is indispensable for family historians and biographers. The 7th edition is packed with up-to-date information about how to trace Scottish genealogy in the unique treasure trove of Scotland's National Archives, available for the first time in both paperback and e-book versions. You can purchase a copy online via the publisher Berlin and other online retailers. The records of Kirk sessions and of higher church courts are the first in a series of digitised record sets NRS will make available via Scotland's People throughout 2021 and beyond. You can find out more about family and historical research at the Scotland's People website, and you can keep up to date with news and events by subscribing to our newsletter and following Scotland's People on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for listening to this talk. We hope you have found it useful for your research. If you have any questions, please get in touch with us at scotlandspeople.gov.uk/contact-us.
We have lots of questions to answer. So I see Jerry working his way back on.
Hello.
Hello. So this has been an introduction to Scotland's People. We're going to get started with the Q&A with Jerry Donnelly. But first, I would like to say thank you to our friends at the American Scottish Foundation at the National Records of Scotland for being with us today. And we do have with us Jerry Donnelly. You ready to get started with some questions? Thank you for being here today first.
Absolutely. No problem. Thanks for having me. It's wonderful. Really lovely to be here. And thanks. I really enjoyed the presentation as well. There's some nuggets in there that I'd never seen before. So yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you.
Yes. Well, then thanks to Tessa for presenting for us. And we'll go on and look at some of the questions. Jay was asking, sorry, I have a second screen, so I'm looking at the questions. We have Jay asking, when we reach back into the mid 1700s or earlier, are people, can you identify them as Northern Ireland who are actually in Scotland? Is that something you've run into?
Yes, actually, because my family are originally from Northern Ireland, so my family came the other way. I think the best thing there, going back to that period, it's the Kirk sessions that were described, the old parish registers. They're the main sources going back. Unfortunately, the further back we go, the less kind of comprehensive the stuff is. But those would be the things to look at going back the way. Some of the wills and testaments go back quite a long way as well. So those would be the things to look at going back to that time period. We don't have anything that kind of links across back and forward between, but I know our colleagues in Ireland have a lot. I think a lot of those records from Northern Ireland at that time are actually in the Republic of Ireland. They've still got a lot of the records kind of pre everything. So that's another place to go and look, is at the National Archives of Ireland for Northern Ireland at that period. So yeah, those places to go. Yep.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Elby was asking, is it worth a trip in person to the National Archives of Scotland, or is everything online?
Well, obviously, no. There's lots. Definitely come and visit us. Absolutely come and visit us. Everyone should come and visit us. And if you had mentioned you were on this call, I'm sure we'll be able to arrange some kind of wee kind of quick tour around the building, let you see the nice things we've got. We're closed at the moment, unfortunately, because of COVID. We're hoping to start a limited reopening very soon. Actually, within the month, hopefully, fingers crossed. But once we're back up and running, definitely come in. The big advantage of coming and seeing us is some of the modern day records. So some of the birth, death, marriage records that are closed for privacy reasons online are available on site. So you can inspect some of those registers, just the way the legislation works. That is, if we're supervising you, you can see some of those records. There's also, I think we've only digitized, it's about 20% of the records we hold. So there's literally miles of records that we've not touched yet that can be accessed on site. They can be ordered up and brought forward. So if there's specific things you're interested in, they're there. there's a lot of things on with the virtual volume system. There's lots of images that have been kind of bunged into this online virtual volume system that can only be accessed on sites. There's lots of things on site that we don't have online. And we've got a lovely garden, so it's really nice to sit out there on a sunny day. We've got a nice nice tea room. We're right on Princes Street as well. We're the prime location. The other thing I should say is if people are over, it's not just Edinburgh, so you can access a lot of our records from a series of local family history centres. So there's one in the Mitchell Library in Glasgow, one in Inverness, one in Kilmarnock, one in Hawick in the Borders, and one somewhere else that I can't remember. I think that might have been five. So yeah, so there's other things dotted about over the place as well. So if you're not actually don't find yourself in Edinburgh, there may be other local family history centres that have access to our records as well. So
Okay. All right, that is great information. And yes, with many cases, there is lots more to be digitized. It takes a lot of resources. So
we're looking hard at what we've got and what we can bring forward. We're very chuffed with virtual volumes. It really opens a big world up to us. The majority of the records, the index records that are really name rich and well organised, the censuses and the registers, we've kind of done a lot of that now. We're now being able to move on to things like the Kirk sessions, which are free text, things that it would just been possible for us to index them, but they're put up there so people can access them, and we're looking where we go next. So I think we've only got about a third of the Kirk sessions themselves up. There's still a few million records still to go up there. Court records are going to be an interesting thing next. Sheriff Courts, High Court records. So there's a lot of big chunky things that we're hoping to start moving onto the system now that we have this tool.
yeah, and that I think leads into a question. I think Cindy had it when she selected the poor relief and migration records. She was finding that she didn't have a response there. Have the poor relief
Yes.
records been posted on Scotland's People yet?
Well, those are the poor relief records, actually.
Okay.
That unfortunate. We don't have a huge amount there. One of the things that we're looking at the moment is, so those Highlands and Islands immigration, that counted as poor relief. The way you dealt with poor relief people, stick them on a boat and send them off to Australia. So it's one way of dealing with it, I suppose. We have other records that we're looking at the moment. So we're hoping to have some news within the year, certainly, about some additional records in that area that we can start to load up. So there's a few other things floating about there, but that's it at the moment in that area.
Okay, but more coming too, so that's good to know.
Yes.
Let's see, we have a question about how are the records recorded of individuals who, through marriage or personal choice, changed religious affiliation? Examples: weddings officiated by ministers of both Roman Catholic priest and Church of Scotland minister.
I don't think there's anything that would kind of register or record the movement back and forward. I think people would just appear from one place to the next place. Actually, you would just need to be looking at the different church records and really seeing where they bobbed up between. I think by the time the civil marriages, I think prior to the civil stuff, I think the way things were, I don't think it would have probably been frowned on by everyone. If you were in one, you didn't get married in both. So
check both.
Yeah,
they could have married in either one.
Check both. Yeah. And there's lots of reasons why people would move back and forward between, or wouldn't necessarily. The Kirk session, actually, to come back talking about the poor relief stuff, the Kirks themselves provided poor relief, and there'll be records of poor relief activities in there. They gave those the poor relief only to their parishioners, to the members of their church. I believe they were trying to discourage kind of people moving about over the country. So people may well have claimed to be within a parish that they weren't. They may well be claiming to be within a religion they weren't. So have a look in different places. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Someone is asking about search options, and there was a point in the presentation about the fuzzy search option. And I think that's where you're referring to. Can you address that a little bit? Fuzzy versus maybe exact search?
Yeah, so it's a probabilistic match. So there's an algorithm sitting at the back of that that's looking at the term and then looking for near matches to that. So the example there might be, so if you're searching for McDonald and you get McDonald with a MAC, McDonald with an MC, it's just that kind of more probabilistic matching. I don't think it quite goes as far as the kind of sounds like type things, but there are algorithms that do that, I know. But it's basically a probabilistic match. So it'll, if you're not exactly sure how the name was spelled, if it's a Mac or a Mick, that's a good place to go with the fuzzy matching to try. You'll get a lot more back, you'll get a lot more records back, but it might help to kind of hone in on what you're looking for.
Okay. Liz has a question. I think she's looking for a more direct answer, and it may be a circular way we have to do this, but is there a list of old registers that haven't survived to be transcribed or viewed on Scotland's people? They wouldn't be in the catalog. What's not digitized, would they be able to find in the catalog?
If it's not digitized, it'll be in the catalogue. Everything we've got's in the catalogue. So have a look in the catalogue. So if you were coming in, there's something in the catalogue, it should tell you whether it's in a state to be ordered out. You can come into the reading rooms and see physical material. We can purchase kind of ad hoc copies. For the stuff that didn't survive, we don't know. Interestingly, stuff still pops up, stuff still appears even years later. The Kirk Sessions is a great example. People have been known to buy houses, buy old manses, and they're full of old registers, and the next thing, sometimes they come and tell us about them. Quite often we see things appearing at auctions. There'll be a quick phone call going, actually, that's technically ours. So yes, the things still appear. Things still appear after all these years.
So if anyone sees something like that online, maybe they'll want to get in touch with you so that it becomes public record again.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We have lots of questions still. Let me just scan down for a minute here and just see if I can pick out if any of them are recurring. Let's see. Okay, a couple people asked about the Dictionary of Scots Language. Are you familiar with that one?
Something I don't know. I don't know it very well at all. So I think I'm sure if the link's not there, we'll get a link.
Search for it. Do a general search, right?
Okay. Basically, yes.
Okay. Okay, hang on. I'm going to go back to the top. We may not get to everyone's questions. We're going to run out of time fairly soon here, but I do want to get back to some of the questions that came in a little earlier. Beverly was asking, is there any other source besides church records for 18th century records, 1700s?
I think wills and testaments would be one of the places to go there. It's mainly the church records, though, really going back. At that time, the church kind of did a lot of the functions of local government at that time. So it's mainly the church records, but wills and testaments, legal records are the other thing. And I say one of the things we're looking at for virtual volumes as quickly as we can is to start bringing more church records. More court records, more civil court records in. So hopefully that's something we can address as quickly as we can. Yeah.
So if they're not finding it online, they'll back to the catalog. Might have to come in person, right?
Exactly. Yes. And if you see something, let us know if there's something there. If there's particular blocks or groups of records that people are interested in, we're happy to find that out, and that helps us to make the decisions of where we go next. We speak to people all the time, and we try and base what we do on what people want. So
Good.
So let us
know. I have some searching to do, that's for sure. I've done some on-site research at Calendar House and some of the poor records they held, but I'm going to go back to now the Kirk Sessions for those areas too. So Barb was asking, do any of the censuses include the number of marriages? She thought her ancestor may
I
have
don't
died and the husband
think-
remarried, for instance.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do.
Mhm.
The old censuses were kind of on a page, and the censuses that we have, it's not the actual census forms we have, it's the enumeration books. So it's a record of an individual on a single line. So there's really, really interesting stuff there, but I don't think they went to that level of detail.
Okay.
I've been doing a bit of work on 1921, so I've not seen that there.
Kay, I think her question may have been answered, but I'll ask it anyway because people tend to ask a lot, is can I purchase a monthly membership to Scotland's people?
We don't offer that just now, unfortunately. It's just to do with the legislation around the way that the records have to be sold. We can't give that type of access to the records at the moment. So it's the credits at the moment. You can purchase credit. A lot of the stuff with indexes are all free to view. The Kirk sessions are free to view. You only have to pay if you want to download something. There are other bits and pieces of free records on there. There's lots of free resources on there. You get 4 credits for £1. I saw someone was asking about what it was in Canadian dollars. I was quickly Googling. I think it's about 40 Canadian dollars. I don't know. I've not then gone to American dollars. They're very, very keenly priced. The charges are all set on the website as well.
Yes, from the US, just check your credit card and make sure you're not getting a foreign transaction fee. Or so check which credit card for the US folks don't have those foreign transaction fees. That adds to the cost for us, but they're not terribly expensive in my personal opinion. So that's my answer there. Someone was asking you, Jerry, for your ancestry in Scotland, are they in Lanarkshire?
They are, yes, they are. Yeah. My family's so great time. We'll talk about people from Ireland. We thought my great grandfather was from Armagh in Ireland. Couldn't find his records at all. It turned out his father had been working on the railways in Scotland. He had been born in Lanarkshire. They then moved back to Ireland, and then a generation later moved back to Lanarkshire again. So I'm from Lanarkshire. Yeah, I was born within sight of the Tunnocks factory. So the Tunnocks camel wavers are run through my veins. So
okay. And yes, Northern Ireland and Scotland are relatively very close, so there is a lot of back and forth, and ferry service and things like that. So. Yeah. Judy was asking a question. I'm trying to scan. There are a lot of questions. I know I'm not going to get to all of them, but this looks like a follow-up for researching in Scotland, either the National Records in Edinburgh or other family history centers. Is it necessary to book ahead or pay a fee to use the research rooms?
Yes. So it's £15 a day. The other local family history centres can vary a bit, but they basically stay the same price as us. They're run by the local authorities. Definitely book ahead, make sure that you get.
And I think the last time I was at the Mitchell Library was just a few years ago. It was the £15 for the day. So. Yes, and they tried to discourage me from coming too late in the day because they thought I might waste my money, but I found some good stuff anyway for my £15 for the hour. So, okay, let me see if I can just get to one or two more here before we're already a little bit past 1 o'clock in the afternoon here, and I know lots of people have things. And are there collections of private family papers held by National Records of Scotland, or would that be a different type of archive or library?
No, we do hold some different family archives. Some of the stuff we have under what we call care and superintendence. So basically, the grand families have deposited records with us to look after them, for them, and then be available. So they generally make those available. There's usually different rules about accessing them and stuff. You usually particularly different permissions to see them, but they're more often than not they're there. We don't tend to put them on Scotland's people. We tend to try and go for the things that have the maximum reach and impact rather than the very specific bits and pieces. But there may well be things like there are particular diaries, groups of letters and stuff that may be of a particular time period or a particular place that are of great interest. So again, virtual volumes gives us the opportunity to put that type of thing up. So yeah, but have a look in the catalogue. There's loads of stuff there. Yeah.
And as always, ask the archivists and librarians, right?
Oh
We have
yes.
questions?
Oh yes. They'll love nothing more. Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I know we didn't get to everyone's questions. Someone here toward the end was asking Tessa's name. That was Tessa Spencer. Thought it was just about the right pace and whatnot. I see a lot of thank yous coming in. I did post a link someone had found for the Dictionary of Scots Language in the chat. So pop into the chat very quickly and get that. And it was wonderful of Tessa to provide for us that we added into the handout, the transcription, her wording of the talk. That was very good to make it accessible. Do want to let people, well, first of all, Jerry, let me thank you so much for being here. I know it's after work hours for you, but we really do appreciate you. Is there anything else you'd like to say before I do some more wrap up comments?
Oh no, really, it was just to really to thank you. Just this, we love doing things like this. It's great to reach out and we love what we do. We're very proud of what we do, so we like to tell people all about it. So no, I thank you for the opportunity.